Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Chee-Tash. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be talking about the book The Clean Coder by Uncle Bob C. Martin. Today, talking about Chapter 11, talking about pressure. If you guys remember last time, we went over Chapter 10, which was all about estimation and pointing or determining the difficulty or how long it will take you to complete certain features, stories, bugs, what have you. So if you haven't checked out that episode, go ahead and check it out in the playlist for the Clean Coder. But today we're talking about all pressure and facing pressure at work, because it's something that I think we're all going to face in life, not just at work, but, in other things too. So Uncle Bob opens up with an anecdote about a story from his days at a startup, and he talks about the pressure that he faced at that startup and really turning into somebody that he didn't like because of all the pressure that was mounting. So he uses a little illustration of, if you're on an operating table and you have a doctor operating you and it's life or death, they need to save your life. Would you rather have a doctor who's appearing calm, collected, he's clear and concise, he's giving people directions, he's talking or would you rather have the doctor that's distraught, that's shouting, that's swearing, who's blaming everybody, who is jumbled up, who's running around all over the place? Which one would you rather have? And Uncle Bob says, yeah, you'd obviously want the person who's calm under pressure. Calm under pressure. And he goes on in this first section to talk about how he was behaving at this startup company and how he was the type of guy who would put in so many long hours, wouldn't see his family. He would blame or expect other people to also be putting in the same amount of work. He would just berate people if they're not putting in a proper amount of work. And his wife confronted him one day about it, said, hey, look what you're turning into. Do you like what you're turning into? And he said, I really didn't. And he had to take a look in the mirror and ask himself, is this what you want to become? And that's all from pressure. But pressure, I think, is inevitable. Pressure will always arrive at your doorstep, but Uncle Bob says that the best way to avoid pressure is to avoid the situations that cause pressure. So what causes pressure? Well, commitments. And we've talked about this in previous chapters too, about how when you make commitments that you can't make, it's very unprofessional of you. Professionals only commit to things they know they can do. So it's important to communicate and best lay out expectations on, hey, this is what I can do in this amount of time. And when somebody's trying to pressure you, maybe the business team, into committing to a deadline that you can't do, then you need to be able to stand your ground and not commit to that. But now, what if the business side commits to something for you? You can get that done. And then they come back to you and they say, oh, yeah, we committed to 2 weeks. And you say, well, why the hell did you do that? At best, I can get this done in a month. Maybe you give an estimate, you give a little PERT estimate. You get the pessimistic, the normal, and then the optimistic, and you say, but best case scenario, I can get this done in a month. What you do is you find a way to meet the requirements. You do everything you can to meet the requirements that your business team set out for you, even though it's not very realistic, but you don't accept the requirements, which means essentially you don't accept responsibility for those requirements. That's on the business team. They committed to it. They didn't communicate with you, so you don't accept responsibility for them. So that's one way to avoid pressure, is just to not commit to anything that you can't do in a certain amount of time. Excuse me. Another way is to stay clean. Don't make a mess. And simply put, this is just following the clean code principles. If you guys have taken a look at the series we did on Uncle Bob's other book, Clean Code, And when you keep your code clean, you have your functions correctly named, variables are very well named, architecture super clean, you're following solid design principles, you're following don't repeat yourself. This is going to help you once pressure rears its ugly head into staying cool, calm, and collected, knowing that you can figure out what your code is doing. You are able to better add on things to your code because it's already so cleanly written out that you understand what it's doing. Staying clean is one way to avoid that pressure of maybe you do commit to a tight deadline. And then you don't have to spend a bunch of time wondering, oh my gosh, what does this do in the code? Or what is this class used for? I have no clue what's going on here. Keep your code clean and it will make things a lot smoother. Christ or disciplines in a crisis, says Uncle Bob, then you believe in that behavior. When your normal behavior deviates in a crisis, that's how you know that you don't really believe in those behaviors. Because once the crisis comes around, you have to reach deep inside your pockets and do something out of the ordinary. But if you have, clean principles to your code, if you have a good character about you, then you carry that with you no matter if it's in a crisis or if it's, just a regular Tuesday at work. And Uncle Bob says here, whatever you follow in a crisis, you follow it all the time. All the time. So that's how to avoid pressure, but what about handling pressure? Sometimes you can do all you can to avoid it, but what if it still comes around and it's at your doorstep? Well, the first thing Uncle Bob says here is that you don't panic. You don't rush to get to a solution. You actually want to slow down when you're in a pressure situation. You want to slow down and plan. Rushing is going to lead to mistakes, but if you slow everything down, you can actually start to see the path ahead and you can actually focus and know exactly what you're doing. So don't rush. There's a book called, I think I've referenced it before in my videos, Stephen Covey. First Things First? I don't think it's called First Things First, actually. But it's not 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's I think called First Things First, where he talks about you could be in a Ferrari or on a bicycle, and if you're going super fast in the Ferrari, you could be going very fast, but you could be going the wrong way, right? So you're just digging yourself deeper and deeper, versus if you're on a bicycle, if you do end up going the wrong way, it's easy to turn back. You'd rather be on the bicycle going the right way than not in the Ferrari going potentially the wrong way. So when you're in a pressure situation, slow down. Slow down and think things through. And then also communicate. Let people know you've hit a wall, or let people know that, hey, something isn't right here, or hey, there's a deadline fast approaching. Because any sort of surprise to, let's say, this team that you can't get something done or something's, coming down to the wire, it's going to multiply the pressure by that much. And the important thing is when you communicate with somebody, you're really going to really let somebody know that, hey, maybe I need some assistance on this. And that can help with alleviating some pressure so it's not just all on your shoulders. Next, kind of like we talked about in the previous slide, rely on your disciplines. Your disciplines are there to give you guidance under pressure. And it's not time to abandon or question your disciplines, because if you know they work in all situations. Even if it's just, again, normal work day on a Tuesday, you bring that same attitude with you. As long as the principles and the disciplines are healthy and positive. You don't want like a discipline that says, hey, I'm going to just do this quick and fast, right? That's probably not a great discipline. But, following clean code principles, following some integrity, testing out everything as much as you can, writing your unit tests to cover your code. those are things you still want to bring with you in a pressure situation. So when things are under pressure, fall back on those disciplines and don't let go of them, says Uncle Bob. And then lastly, kind of going together with the communication, get help when you need it. Find somebody who is willing to pair with you, because they're going to help you stay on task. Pairing with somebody is going to help you keep track. They're going to be able to see things in the code that maybe you can't see. And they'll be able to take over driving the code writing when maybe you get a little fatigued or exhausted from writing code. And last slide, that's it, guys. That's it. This was a very short chapter. Just remember, you want to avoid pressure when you can, and then weather it when you can't avoid the pressure. And ultimately, you just always want to stay calm. You want to communicate as best as you can. You want to get help whenever you can, and you want to fall back on those disciplines whenever you're in the pressure situation, and don't let go of them. And with that, guys, that's going to do it. I know a very short video from me today, but this was a very short chapter. Next time, we're going to talk about chapter 12, which is about collaboration. We really only have 3 more chapters left in the Clean Coder, so we're just going to work right through this. No video. We'll see. There might not be a video next week, but we'll have more interview clips coming out, so stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for listening to this. Really, really appreciate it. My name is Chris. This has been Chee-Tash. Take care, everybody.